Larry Keith was
he
Okay, kia ora. Thanks and welcome to everyone welcome to Gordon, who many of you will know is our trusted NZTA advisor and a really key stakeholder in this process. We've also got Eric Barnes, who's going to be our facilitator for the day. So Eric is an accredited ILM facilitator. He's been really central in assisting the team to pull all of this work together. So thank you and welcome to you both. So just some background for those of you who aren't across what the ILM mapping process is. So the current ILM map that we've been working from was last developed in 2017, and we've re-adopted that for each NLTP cycle that followed. Since then, we've grown as an organization, as a district, as the transportation activity has grown, our knowledge of the district has deepened, and new challenges have been identified. So we thought, hey, this time around, it would be good for us to refresh the ILM map. It's been 10 years in the making. Most of our council have changed as well. So yeah, that's essentially why we are here today. So yep. Without further ado, hand over to Eric, and yeah, I'll be here to support any questions.
Cool. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Look, it's great to be here today. Again, my name is Eric Barnes. We've been working with councils all across the country, and not only doing these workshops, but infrastructure development and asset management as well. And I think this is quite an important exercise. Going through, and don't get overly stuck on the technical term of ILM or investment logic map. Really kind of set that to the side, because today is a conversation really to get your perspectives, what you think the problem is around transport within the district, and also what benefits would you want to see. And it's really up to the staff and the team to really take that feedback and to put it into a state where you guys can review it as governors and actually put a stamp on it and say, yes, this is where we want to be. So really looking at today for what we're looking to get out of this workshop. So we have an hour and a half together. We'll work through a couple of exercises together. I will take notes on the board. So you'll just see some things popping up here. I'll go out of presentation mode in a bit. I'll give you a little overview of what to expect through the session today and what an investment logic map is and what it does. Because it is quite a powerful tool from a governance perspective as well. The feedback we're looking for today is to test the problems. So the team has spent a lot of time thinking about what evidence is sitting on the table, what the community is looking for, and this goes from community customer feedback all the way down to, say, pavement strength, etc. So what are the issues that we're actually experiencing as a district in transport? And what we want to do now is to test that with yourselves and get feedback on actually, does that sound right? Are we focused in the right area? And really, the key thing here is putting the governance hat on now and going, okay, well, from a strategic direction, is this providing the direction that we want to then tackle as we move forward? The next part of this then is the move from the problems to the benefits. So if we were to resolve those problems, what benefits would you want to see in the community? Because that actually starts to then give us direction about how the team will start responding and shaping the programs of work. So the two things today that we're looking for, feedback on the problems and feedback on the benefits. We'll quickly test the feeling around, you'll see some of the weightings, percentages. We'll test those as well to see if maybe one is a higher priority in your mind or if the staff have it about right. Feedback on you on that, and then talk a little bit about key performance indicators, only in the sense of saying, hey, look, as we go through this process, as governors, especially yourselves, are going to want to understand, are we doing what we said we're going to do? And how are you measuring that performance? So you can kind of see how that fits into the overall structure. And I know Titus and the team are working on pulling that together as well and testing that. So again, three things that we'll test. One is the problems, getting your feedback. Two is the benefits, getting your feedback, and then just circling back, looking at the weightings and just creating some context of the KPIs. What we will be doing with the ILM. So after this session here, the team is going to take all that feedback. They will spend some time considering what that looks like, refining the problem statements, the benefit statements, and looking at the KPIs, and then start mapping out the responses. So looking at the solutions. So actually thinking about that direction that you're setting, what do we do with that? And then that will come back to you to, again, test it. So there's still an iteration of confirming where we want to go. The investment logic map, it's always worth asking, is there anyone in here who's been through this process before? No, okay, so no, there's no worries on that. What the really neat thing and the intention of this is, you should be able to pick up that map that was sent out to you, that one pager, and it's really simple investment story. So you should be able to read and go, okay, yes, I know what we're actually spending our rate money on. Gordon picks that up from an NZTA perspective and does the same thing. He goes, okay, I can see actually what are we co-investing in. So it actually should be quite a simple platform. It doesn't capture everything because we're trying to get down to the nub of the critical thinking about it. That's where the asset management plan starts to paint the wider picture, and then it goes into the LTP. So that paints the wider context. But you should be able to pick up this and actually understand, okay, I know why we're doing the work on transport. I know where the problems are. I know what I'm paying or where my ratepayer money is going around the benefits, what we're trying to deliver. So that's really, really simply what it does. It provides the why and the what, and then the response and the solution provides the how as we work through that. The logic, as you read the investment logic map, again, has a problem statement and links to the benefits. You see nice lines connecting it. And then it goes into the responses and solutions. The value around this, and I've talked about it before, hopefully it provides some really good clarity around what you're doing, why you're doing it. And also, as you start to have those conversations of trade-offs, we know we can't afford everything, so there's going to be potentially some hard decisions around actually we're doing this or doing that, and how that actually links into whether you're able to deliver on those benefits or not, and what the potential consequences might be. It also provides us with that narrative, that richness, especially setting the tone here for yourselves and giving that governance direction. So the team can take that away as they're writing the activity or asset management plan and actually starting to shape that. Cool. Any initial questions as we go through? Just painting some context. Hopefully all of you have this investment logic map available or in front of you. This sets the background of what the team has already produced. As we go through today, we're really keen to get your feedback. I will type down some things. If you see me typing something and it isn't what you said or it's not what you intended, please just pipe up and I'll rearrange it. A couple things here. I'm listening to the conversation, I'm facilitating it, and I'm trying to type some notes. I'm not too bad at multitasking, but I don't have it nailed, that's for sure. So just pipe up if you don't think what I'm writing is accurate. Again, these are just notes that I can take away. The team is here listening as well. So we'll have some really valuable discussions when we take all this information away. Another point is we're trying not to be in solution mode. Okay, so we always love to go in, if we did this or that, that would solve the problem. We want to stay away from that at the moment if we can. Look, if you have some ideas and they just come up, I just type them up so the team we don't lose them. But if you're okay, just to keep us on track, if I can just stop those conversations, are you okay with that? Yep, so if we start getting off on a tangent or getting solution mode, I'll just say, hey, let's just pause that. The team will come back to you later on that. Okay, that'll keep us on track. Nice. Without further ado then, I'm gonna, as I said, I'll take notes up here. See if this doesn't say, yep, nice. Okay. So as we're going down, I put all of the problems up here. And the key first thing is thinking about, and we can go through them individually, or you can feedback in a general sense, but I'll read through the first one and then we'll have a conversation around it. So the first problem that the team has come up with is around the heavy freight. So heavy freight demand exceeds design capacity on some bridges and roads, reducing performance and limiting freight access for the economy. So what's your feeling and sense on that? Is that a problem that you?
So, well, you're right. A lot of that is that forestry, timber, cartage, etc.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of this is feeder roads, which will be used strategically by major forest companies that then break down. I would like to see, and always like to see a percentage of our maintenance and upgrades, etc., maybe billed to forestries to help with that, because they're getting a hell of a lot of benefit from our ratepayers.
So you do see this as an issue in the district? Yeah.
Especially in our area.
Yeah. Keep going around. There's some comments over there.
Oh, I'm well aware of what the heavier trucks are doing to our infrastructure. Then we've got to be realistic. As can we actually afford to upgrade all this infrastructure? Because the benefits outweigh the costs. And, I'd say quite marginal in a lot of aspects for our ratepayers. So I suppose that comes down to cost burden coming back on the local residents.
Kia ora, Jock.
Eric. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Apologies.
No, good. So what we're doing is looking at the problem statements that have come out for transport and just getting feedback. Generally, do they seem about right? Are we missing anything? Is something off track? And we're just talking about heavy freight at the moment.
The percentage there, or percentages, so is that an estimate from our staff as to where they're weighting? And that,
Yeah. So if you looked at all the problems, they're saying actually this one is the most significant one out of all the problems.
yeah, so they've raised it there, and then we get it. Is it for discussion?
It's totally for discussion. Yeah, all of that. You guys might be sitting here going, "Oh, actually, I don't see that." You know,
Okay.
So we can capture that, and they can come back and test that again.
So if I can just quickly add to that, bridges and our sealed network form the greatest percentage of the value of our assets. They cost the most to maintain, rehabilitate, renew. So we thought, especially being include the district where economic productivity is the driver for our GDP, should get the high rating. And as one of our LTP priorities to open up the network to 50 max, which is 50-ton vehicles. And as we do that, we need to be mindful that there's going to be more maintenance on a greater part of our roads and bridges. So what we're saying is this is a priority we need to focus on in terms of our maintenance and renewal programs moving forward. Why we're putting it as a focus as a problem statement.
I mean, Gordon might be able to come in on this too, but is 50 max almost becoming the norm as well going forward? So are we still going to have restrictions on our network when this is the expected norm in most places?
I think the government's shown its intentions. I think it is looking like it is going to be the BAU. It was promised at the start that it wasn't, but just to see what's going to happen. But yeah, so I think.
Yeah, so at present, we've got a lot of bridges that are restricted to 50 max. 50 max vehicles can't travel from a number of our bridges. And as our bridge stock ages, we're finding more and more bridges that are being restricted. And We really need to focus our program resolving that moving forward. Where do we put our funds? Where does the money go? Are we going to take a more for maintenance focus? Are we going to lower the level of service that kind of
So our current subsidy? 63.
67?
67%? Yep.
When's that up for review, Gordon?
Right about now. There's generally not a great deal of change. 67 is on the upper end of the scale of things. I know you got a bit of a bump last time, which was handy dandy. But you know, there's never more than about 3, 4, 5, 6 councils that will change. Yeah. So I don't think there'll be much change.
So Gordon, is the process this time just recalculating, not a change in the methodology, or?
Correct. The algorithm remains predominantly deprivation and its pay based, and and so there won't be a change in the methodology of how it's calculated.
Because a big chunk of it's on relative capital value of your district too, isn't it?
Yes, yes, that's true, but there's various factors, but those two are the main components of it.
So if our capital value hasn't increased relative to everyone else's, compared to how much we spend on the network and the length of the network and deprivation, then hopefully it won't change too much. We have had some capital value movements, but there's been a lot in other places, a lot more than we have.
Yes,
Would that be the main driving force, Gordon, for it to drop? The fee rate to actually drop, like you said, there was 4 or 5 councils maybe.
they would all rose, and so we don't have too many that go down at all. And if it's a big chunk, which is very rarely, it'll be spread out over 3 years or something like that. But that's I don't expect there'd be, you know, we're talking 1% sort of stuff. I think the biggest bump was Buller. I think they got 3%, but that was the biggest.
Thank you.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all right. I just question, so on our roading, how many of these roads are being driven on anyway? Do we even know that?
Yes, so we've got a pre-approved HPMV.
And so you can guarantee the trucks only go on those roads?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we can't guarantee it.
Can't guarantee that.
We can't enforce it to that level, but we
not.
have, trucking companies are, they do adhere to those rules. There's big implications if they don't,
If they get caught.
if they get caught.
Yeah,
It's,
the
the classic-
easiest way for us to monitor that is once we find a truck that, or multiple trucks that have deviated from the routes, we can enforce and require the trucking company to install GPS and give us feedback so that we can monitor wherever these trucks go, and they have to do it. It's legislation. We haven't asked for it because we haven't found breaches.
So it is a trust model. I mean, if you put a kit inside it and fill it with trees, with logs, you wouldn't be able to know what was in there. And also you get an H plate on and it may not be heavy. So right at the start, I was involved way back at the start, we were hoping for a folding thing to say that when they weren't aged, they could fold over. So it is a trust model. That's all I'm saying.
So do you guys get a sense then that this problem statement is a valid statement? Is this? Yeah. Yep. Is there anything you would tweak in that? Is the focus right? So it's.
Well, for the future, the focus is going to be right because those trees at some stage when they say they're not going to log them, they will.
Yeah.
The time will come. I know it's future looking forward, but if we don't sort of keep that to the forefront, there'll be problems.
I think we can all remember what happened in Tarko Valley Road, you know, pulled out in the winter and it trashed the road. So it does happen. If the price bumps up, all of a sudden they'll be finding all sorts of lots that they'll be wanting to do.
That heavy freight one though, it really resonates. Like, I don't know what your fellow councillors here, but geez, I get it all the time. Like our roads just aren't up for this big area anymore. And as production in the primary industries increases, usage is increasing, and there's more and more problems.
Yeah.
more pressure on bigger animals either,
All the big gear.
more in the road.
So if we looked at the second problem statement, and always, if you think of something on anything we've just gone over, always have to go back, guys. So I don't think we've just moved on. But second statement then is weak asset condition and risk data, reduce confidence in forward works programs, delaying decisions and increasing whole life costs. This one's much more of an internal one, and looking at getting better data, getting better information. So, the questions that you're asking have more grounding as you start to have harder trade-off conversations, I would say, into the future. So,
Well, we have, I think we've probably got the most bridges than anybody. How far away are these roads from, are the trucking companies actually coming to us and asking about some of the roads and bridges that, they're travelling so much further to get round than if they could take that road type of thing? Do we get that coming to us?
Not necessarily too much of that. I mean, a large part of our network is currently pre-approved for heavy vehicles.
Yeah.
We do get the odd occasion where we get overweight permit requests for certain trucking companies that want to cross bridges that are restricted, and we've got an overweight permitting process that manages that. And so we assess it on a case-by-case basis, and they are issued permits for those particular instances, but for the most part, not. But what we have been seeing is more and more bridges being restricted because of the age.
And I was just going to say, when we were in between professional service providers, and we were doing a whole piece of work on the overweight bridges and the restrictions, we were definitely getting inundated, weren't we, Pierre, where the trucking companies were really unhappy because we weren't prepared to allow them over the bridges till we had the confidence that they'd been assessed.
So this problem statement is really about us internally collecting better data. Like we've now got an accelerated bridge inspection program to collect information on every single bridge in our district. And by the end of next month, we would have all that data in our systems. But there are still gaps we need to attend to, like our culverts. We don't have good information about our culverts in our district. Our retaining walls, we don't have many retaining walls. We don't have good information about it. So it's about us putting a focus moving forward to actually gathering this information. James and I were out on a drive yesterday, and we noticed a number of slip sites. We don't really have that documented very well. So it's about collecting that information so we're able to preempt issues that are coming and not be so reactive anymore. So it's more of an internal thing that will enable more robust forward work planning.
So the question from me, how do we turn weak asset condition into a strong asset condition, and where's the line for that?
Well, it's not necessarily about changing weak asset condition to strong asset condition. It's about understanding where our weak asset conditions are and then formulating responses moving forward. So we would first need to identify where are our weak areas and start prioritizing on that basis before forming solutions. Like now, we know we don't have any retaining wall information. We've got around 120 retaining walls around the district. So if someone had to ask us which ones should we replace, we can't tell you straight up because we haven't collected that information yet.
Okay. Can I just say, if you read the statement reads weak asset condition and risk data. The weak is referring to the asset condition and the risk data. Data referring to the asset condition data and risk data, not necessarily weak assets.
Yeah, so poor asset or incomplete asset condition data.
Yeah,
So
it's referring more to the data than the
Better. more data.
Can't give it better, don't they?
So question to both of you, the assets, are they more on 4 or 5 different routes or just spread out over the whole area? Could we concentrate on certain areas that are primary pathways?
Yeah.
And look at those assets?
That's essentially what our upcoming AMP is going to be tackling. We're implementing something called a differential level of service framework, where we will be prioritizing our focus for assets that are more high risk, provide more value to the community, and reduce the level of service on those that can be deferred.
It's a very fine line.
Okay.
It's a very fine line.
Yeah.
Barking about corrugation.
There's a lot of work in the background that goes into doing that. The team are working really, really hard to get that across the line.
It's a really important strategy to do it this way though, because when we have budget constraints, the areas that have the highest volumes are the areas that you would need to do the remedial works on first, or resilience work. So for example, we were at a site yesterday, and one of the questions I was asking is, what are the volume of traffic? What's its use? What's its intended use? Because you need to consider all of those aspects when you make the decisions on the type of renewal. Last thing we want to do is invest huge money on, for example, if it's a bridge that's servicing 3 properties versus one that's got 200 vehicle counts a day.
Yeah,
It's got to be different options.
that's where I was getting to. A lot of these are historically major thoroughfares, or it might be a 20-year cycle if it was timber, but there'll also be farms, etc. Those roads. If you can break that down into specifics, then you pick on them.
Yeah. Well, I've just got a question really about gravel roads, and I don't know who can answer it, but I'll give you an example of something that happened, and James knows what I'm talking about, where road was gravelled, but there's gaps in the overlap, and then Landcorp have several unit loads of 50-tonne dragged stock out and just cut through the clay, and you've got ruts like this because of weather change. So for me, how's that monitored and how's that signed off if there's a identifiable strip from here to the car park where it hasn't had gravel? And of course, you've got to go back and fix it. But I mean, that comes down to what was probably done at the time, maybe with the contract. I don't know, but it's something we're seeing a little bit of.
To be fair, that really should be roading operations team.
Okay,
spot
yeah.
checking and auditing the work of our contractors.
Yeah, no, that's all right, but it's.
Because why don't we, I'll just capture that.
Yeah.
And the team can just pick that up.
Yeah,
and come
thank
back
you.
to The,
Stay at high level.
the key here, it sounds like there's general support around this. It's more of an internal issue that's being presented, but I think it's a very open and honest one. Coming back to yourselves and saying, hey, look, we know there's some, differential levels of service questions that might come up, and actually how do we prioritize and focus? And this is the problem that the staff have identified to say, look, we know that, so this is what we think we need to do, what we need to resolve. So it sounds like general support in this one.
Yeah.
So if we looked at the third one then, so more frequent severe weather exposure, drainage and corridor deficiencies, increasing flooding, damage, and emergency costs. What's your feeling on this as a problem?
I would have thought 15% is probably a bit light.
Okay, there we go.
Quite light, to be quite honest. Looking at some of the weather extremes we've been experiencing in the Chuapeka district.
And the projections are that they're going to become more frequent.
Yeah.
You would notice that this problem statement was not on the previous ILM map. It's being introduced for the first time. It's good that Mayor John says that we should put a bit more focus on that area. I think Donna shares the same sentiments. She's been preaching that the past 6 months.
That's just because she's come from Gisborne.
Once it's been there, he can.
So just one comment I would say about that is that NZTA looked at and then backed away from changing the qualification for emergency works. I wouldn't be surprised if we have another go at it because 1 in 10 is becoming like 1 in 5, and so
We've only had 2 in the last 2 years.
I know, but there's some really frequent flyers, and so I just think that I think you should expect some change perhaps. I don't know whether there'll be no bump for emergency works or whether there'll be no bespoke. The bespoke I think will get more difficult. Well, it'll be more at the discretion of the government. It'll be outside NLTF funding, which is what I'm playing with, and which becomes more, not risky, but it's less certain. But I still think that we have to make a provision for emergency works, and it comes off the local road operations budget out of that band. And so the bigger provision we make, the less we can allocate out because we're holding that back for emergency works. So one theory, which again didn't get through, was to make it harder to get. So it would have to be a 1 in 20 before it qualified. The amusing thing about this is that it doesn't cover wind events at all. And of course, we knew on October the 23rd last year, we had a bit of a blow. I have basically approved all of those just as of right, just because you can see they're all tipped over. But I'm just thinking that I still feel that we'll go back there at the direction of the board to relook at it because of the affordability to the NLTF to fund these increasingly common and quite increasingly frequent and expensive events.
And Gordon, so my understanding is historically NZTA would only support like-for-like replacements, but now going forward, we're more open to a more resilient approach with some aspects.
Yeah, I think we may actually come to the story of looking at roads to say that is that level of service something we reinstate. That's probably not. I'm not going to answer your question immediately, but we also may be looking to withdraw from roads that are just too hard, where possible. We have got an uneconomic roads policy at the moment, which I think is a wee bit imprecise, a bit vague, but there are some roads that we may not be able to go back to if they're sufficiently damaged. There's a lot of qualifiers to whether we do that or not, but I think the expectation that the same level of service as what is there now after damage may not be what is reinstated. And I'm being a bit careful with my words there, but I think, I don't know if you guys remember the Marlborough Sound stuff. We probably shouldn't have gone back there with the roads, and we should have gone back with the marine option, but we can't offer a marine option through the NLTF. So, with the resilience sort of thing, is if you have, get into too much detail here, but if you've got a culvert that's blown out and it's manifestly under spec'd, it would make no sense to reinstate the same 300 mil culvert. I would tend to think that that's an easy one, but it's just where you've got a road, an unsealed road that's say 6 or 7 metres wide, good visibility, and it's all dissipated into air. Well, air is really expensive to build back into. We might just go into the hill a bit and say, because the visibility is still good, you can get past. But it's not going to be the same level of service as before. So I think we'll increasingly see that sort of discussion.
Retreating is a really good option.
Well, retreat is our first option, really, is to say, why can't we retreat? Because they say building back out into air is really expensive.
Going back to your comment about the frequency of the weather events, I wouldn't be terribly too concerned about the frequencies. It's more the intensity. It's
well, I think
the intensity of them's getting more.
I think it's both. I mean, like a while back, I think 70 mils in 20 minutes. Nothing could really handle that, and so that's going to blow stuff out. So short and sharp. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Dumbarton, just south of Roxburgh. It's notorious for having those cloudbursts and stuff. And it just doesn't take many mils, but as the period comes over. But I think we're getting increased frequency and increased intensity. So, and they sort of combine to make things bad.
And you touched on uneconomic roads. What is an uneconomic road through your eyes?
Well, we have a bridge policy. If a bridge gets washed out and the detour is less than 5 k's, we would not look to replace the bridge. We're looking to extend that or qualify that a bit more with roading. Is to say if you've got 2 roads to go into place, one gets cleaned out, is that we may not do that road again, and you might be longer, but if you've got another alternative access, that would play into our discussion. And just, yeah, sometimes we may even, if there's 4 farms combined and there's a bridge that goes over there to the one farm now, that to me, it sounds like a local road, a private road. If that got taken out, we'd probably say, we're probably not going to be a part of that reinstatement.
Yeah, right.
But just in that situation, Gordon, we do have some roads, bridges like that.
Yep.
What, even though they've been combined and operated as a single unit now, what would happen if one of those farms sold?
Well,
and you've got 2 owners going.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, they tend to not combine. There are still 4 properties operating as one, so it's kind of cute to talk about. It's hard to land. Southland's been trying to play in that space.
We've been through that with 20 odd bridges before, and it got a bit hard.
It does.
Probably time to talk about it again.
It does, and I recommend having a chat with Southland, because Southland's had a couple of situations recently where they've said that this road is, this bridge is up for replacement, but we're actually not going to replace it. And it's all about comms. It's just getting out there early, just saying, and so the landowner for the farms, they have actually replaced the bridge. Or, even forwards, forwards can be an issue. Can be a more robust. They don't get washed out as much. Depends on aggregation and everything. Anyway, I get into too much detail, but we need to vocalise those things before, otherwise they're surprised.
That is an interesting debate, because there's a lot of, well aware of a lot of the forestry, whole farm forestry plantings that have been done. I can think of a few roads not far from me where they've all gone into trees, so there won't be a lot of vehicle usage on them for the next 20, 25 years. But then suddenly...
And you'll know full well that is the forester's response. It's like, we're not using the road for 20 years, and all of a sudden we take them out 1 year and you hate us. Well, it's a bit cute. Another one is that they build the planting close to the roads. I know definitely Tarcoat Road was shaded all year round, just in some parts. And that, if a road doesn't dry out, it goes to what it goes to. And so just maybe getting those into...
What I'm meaning is say some companies or whoever, investors, who planted their farms out, there's a good road down there. It's been well used. It's no longer well used.
Yes.
Council, NCTA come along and go, well, that's not done.
I know what you're saying.
Keep it up to spec. Where does that argument lie?
Well, you with traffic counts and stuff like that, you could actually reduce the level of service during the period that it's not being heavily used, but always knowing the fact that the green things are getting bigger and bigger, and eventually they're going to be hauled out probably in winter.
But talking about uneconomic roads, I was thinking of it more from the council's perspective. Like, as council, an uneconomic road, like we've got one ripper in our district, which is the Waipori Road.
Yep.
You could base a grader there all summer, and it would be welcome. But then we can't afford to do that, because we don't get the funding to do that. And yet it's a high economic performing road servicing about 500,000 stock units that come off the land, which add to our GDP.
And so we have this, I don't know if you know about the One Network framework, where we do assess the roads, I think in the document, and that would indicate what we would expect the level of services to be, but you guys would know that anyway. But I can't. Another thing, getting way out of the tangent here, traffic counts. If you don't know, you don't know. I mean, everyone can make stuff up, but actually we want to see numbers and stuff and traffic growth or not. And so it's often the thing that's not neglected, but sort of forgotten in a way. But they are very important for a basis of planning what's happening on your network and issues that make it.
So great discussion, guys. Quite a few notes I've captured out of that in a couple different areas. It sounds like there is support for this statement, as there is more frequent severe weather. Increasing intensity is probably maybe something we can look at and shifting some of the wording. If we looked at the last one, then aging population combined with poor footpaths and crossing limits, accessibility, increasing pedestrian risk and dissatisfaction.
So
Very different tone.
I might front foot that one. Obviously, with the latest GPS, the funding for footpaths was restricted a lot, and it was chucked into its own little box, so it couldn't be transferred money into it or out of it. And so we are required to give effect to the GPS through the investment prioritisation model, and so we just had our hands tied. We just didn't have the money. And those who are a wee bit maybe nearly as old as me would remember that 6 years ago it was unsubsidised work. It didn't receive the NLTF funding. I know that we had a bit of a, I don't know, probably just about a cluster in Milton where the timing was wrong, and when it push come to shove, that was when we had no money. But we are very tied up by what the GPS says and our requirement to give effect to it, which was quite a change from the previous GPS.
So if you taking note of that, for the conversation here today is really testing, if you set aside the funding co-contribution, is this an issue? Because obviously as elected members, you have other means of, if you really see this as an issue, the GPS is stating one thing, there's political voice as a response. So, but it's really up to yourself about saying this truly is an issue for us as a community or not.
It is in
Do you
certain
see this?
areas, yeah, because certain areas would like some footpaths, but they can't afford them. Yeah, so so then they've got to turn around and say no.
So I just challenge that and say NZTA no longer funds footpaths to the level it did in previous GPs. Because there is still some funding there, but it's about 20% of what it was.
So it's not even close to good asset management footpath networks.
No. But
to be honest, Gordon, it probably would have been easy for us if they said we'd just taken it out altogether. Then we zero. Yeah. Then we know if we want footpaths, we're funding it. It's not a NZTA assisted program.
yeah, I would actually carry on that premise going forward. I think
Why, for this exercise though, why can't we still leave it in there?
You can.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. This is an issue for you.
Yeah, it's still an issue.
But
But
note that we're not comfortable with the government's position, don't like it.
yeah, well, that's fine. And but be aware that I don't see it changing any time
I
soon.
don't say we might, it
Yep.
doesn't mean it mightn't change now, but we can still say, hey,
Yep.
we don't like
Yep.
where the
Yep.
where NZTA comes from.
So on that note, it sounds like there are issues in certain areas. Yeah.
Oh, of course there are.
Same for cycleways and walkways, but people can't even get around a footpath.
So does NZTA, have they funded footpaths next to the state highway?
It gets tricky. It depends on the speed limit.
Yeah.
So
They say Clinton.
So
You've driven through Clinton, Roger.
No,
You know that's clearly a no.
Because
Yeah,
we
so,
got right.
yeah.
So for yourselves then, from your constituents, are you hearing feedback from people around this?
Yes.
issue?
Very much.
So it is coming to you.
But I think a fair bit of that relates to the ageing population with mobility scooters in the rural communities now. Anyone with a mobility scooter, you hear all about it.
Nice. Okay, so in general, it sounds like the problems that we've talked about are striking the right chord. So the next question I have to you is, are we missing anything? Is there something there we're saying, yep, this is looking good, there might be some tweaks in wording or some context, but do you think there's something that we haven't picked up?
There is speed limits.
Speed limits?
Beaches.
Just to add to the speed limits, we are doing everything we can as part of BAU to tackle that. Pierre has been amazing. I mean, he's gotten our school speed limits across the line. He's just completed 22 technical assessments for targeted speed reviews.
Is that just the beaches?
Yeah. Not that one. And he's actively working on the beach speed limit reviews as well. So those, while it is a problem, it's something we can tackle as part of BAU. Whereas these problem statements need more targeted interventions, more costly targeted interventions. Yeah, and it's long-term solution, long-term problems, things that will arise in the future, like our road deterioration from forestry companies that are going to be logging 20 years down the line. We know we're going to have to increase maintenance for certain roads.
Is there any other thoughts here? Because a lot of this is, there's a couple of things that are really helpful here is it may not change the problem statements. Problem statements, you know, can be very solid, but also what the team can do is take your thoughts away and say, hey, look, this is how we're addressing this in the context of the activity or asset management plan. Just clear. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just probably going right back to the start with heavy freight, but is there still a subsidy for traction seal on particular material roads?
That was done under minor improvements, and that's pretty much been cut as well.
So what about actual improvements? Like, sure, if we common sense, certain very low use roads, maybe they do no longer become a serviced road, they get relinquished back into the affected property owners, but is there a desire still to actually improve some of our networks? And, you know, like, I mean, Owaka Valley would be a prime example.
Yeah, we drove over there. It was pretty good, I thought.
All right.
Very
Well, I mean, there's always a desire, and there's an economic case that would say that the remaining 14 Ks would make sense to seal. But is there a desire there? Do we ever?
Well, there's certainly a desire from your local constituents down there. I heard that when I was down there with my drop-in session. And their biggest concern there is with the wisp being planted out in trees. Once again, the trees and the logging activity that's going to be on that road, it's going to be a horrible experience for
That's 30 years away, though.
That's right, but that's what Councillor Kennedy was saying.
So as NZK, is there any desire in our country to actually improve sort of disestablishing roads? Is there actually, let's disestablish some roads, but
we actually improve the roads.
Is there any actually idea to improve some roads?
I can give you the polite answer, or I can give you the real answer. The real answer is that money won't go that far. And so we really haven't been funding seal extensions for quite some.
Yeah.
And traction seals are a wee bit different in the fact that if you can prove, you know, the safety aspect and even the economics of, you know, if you're going up there the greater every other week, because you can't get up there, that's telling a story. But no, there's so many takes on the dollar.
So little areas that we could justify from a least cost long-term option.
Yeah, but definitely need to have a chat with me first.
Would it not be a takeaway for you? Because isn't that part of your purpose today is to gather up takeaways to take back to your leadership group? But we're getting pressure from the South Island ministers to increase production in our GDPs in our districts. And to do that, we need the government to be part of it. And our biggest part is our roading infrastructure to increase that production. So we don't have the roads to get the production out on.
You might get more money out of Mr. Meager.
No, that's who's pushing it all, yeah. I don't know, but if we're all singing off the same song sheet. Another question for you, take back to your peers, is, you know, like a risk management asset register. Have you got anything in place for councils to use as a blanket one over the whole country? Like, do you actually set the scene and provide councils with guidance on like an asset management register?
There is
so that they can actually help the councils and the council staff to actually identify this, because I was quite horrified to hear what was just said before, that we've got no idea how many retaining walls we've got. Like, when you're in business, you always run a risk radar of a failing infrastructure.
Well,
and it's really obvious that we don't have those things in place.
I'll tell you, until about 2011, when Christchurch had its earthquakes, no one really had a good handle on their retaining walls at all. Yeah. And so it has basically been catch up since then.
Really?
Not well. Well, even ownership, let alone condition and cost and liability. But ownership's a biggie. And sorry, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say, and also a lot of, not all, but a number of retaining walls occur from emergency events. And it's a reactive, it's fast work. And historically, contractors and council have all been, we've been a bit guilty of that. They just get the work done, and then the as-built, what they call the as-built, the designs, the information going into our database systems weren't done at the level they should have been, or they may have been missed. But like Gordon's saying, lessons learned from prior years, that is increasing. So these could be historic sites. I don't know. But you are right. And so this is an opportunity for our ops team and our contractors as we discover them to get them into our systems.
Yeah.
Totally.
Cool.
To say that we don't have any information is not really correct. There's 115 retaining walls in our database, just as a quick search. So there is some in there, but our asset database isn't as good as it should be.
But does your database tell you what level they're at of condition? Because we got people that have inspected them and when they were last recorded, when they were last inspected.
The data probably was inputted when they were built. So unless there's been work done on them, we haven't been doing condition rations. The conditions of majority of what is it?
So I'm gonna, so is there one more? I'm gonna pull us back here. Great conversation, because actually it's reinforcing some of the other problems that have been identified. Just thinking of the weightings, what's your general sense? We don't need to get into a debate of, it's 50 versus 35, but what's your general sense of freight being rated as the 45, the highest priority? Already some feedback that the frequency of severe weather should be higher than the 15. Is there any other feeling around how that's weighted? If you would readjust the weightings?
No, not really, because that first one has a big impact on that third one.
Yeah.
So just the first problem has a big impact on that.
If anything, I would suggest that the 20% in the ageing population around footpaths and pedestrians dissatisfaction should be high.
Okay.
You can't go to 120%.
This is Lawrence.
Well, don't worry, a lot of your constituents have been here over the last few years, so you'll find out, councillor. If you hang around.
And Simon's one's a frequent flyer.
Cool. Nice. Thanks for that feedback, guys. It sounds like, and actually your comment was brilliant, because these all weave together. You can see how, and this one, the one thing to state here too, also, this is a snapshot in time. Yeah. So you may look at this in 6 months or a year and actually look at reweighting it, because actually you've done work, you've figured out, and actually one of the problems might be.
So where do you take it from, though?
Yeah. Well,
Like, I agree with the statement.
Yeah.
Footpaths is high, but are you going to take it off the bridges?
Yeah. That's the
Bridges
question.
are going to be the biggest.
That's my point. You can't go to 120%.
Yeah, so now it's got to equal 100. So, but what the team, you can see the challenge is going to be. So you guys are giving feedback saying, actually those should be higher. Team will take a look at it, and we'll work through it and come back to you and say, look, to make that adjustment, that means this would have to decrease, and you could go, actually, yep, that looks good, or not. I understand the context.
So just increase the budget.
But for the bridges, it's not us making the legislation of the bridge use. We could have the choice that, these trucks aren't on these roads. Well, the bridge problem goes away, but we don't have that say. We don't have that choice. They're going to go up Stat High 1, they're going to go off Stat High 1 onto our feeder roads to go and get our primary reduction. So,
Just before you move on, Eric, where does the problem fit of the amount of money that we're thinking we're going to have to spend from our valuation versus the reality of what we can afford to spend and what our co-funder NZTA might think we can spend? Where does that fit? Is it at this stage, or is it later on when we're looking at the response to some of these problems?
Later on in the response.
Okay.
And that's actually a really, really good question, because obviously you can't afford it. So this is helping you guys better understand what you are really truly trying to address and the benefits you want for the community when you make those hard trade-off conversations. You know, because you're going to be asking for a certain amount of funding, and NZTA central government can only give so much. So actually, what is the trade-off? You know, what's the consequence of certain decisions? Trying to make it more transparent.
And
It's
so
not necessarily easier, but it's more transparent.
I find it's very helpful to have an app that has scenarios.
Yeah.
And then you know what, between this one and that one, what is out and what's been deferred, delayed, reduced. And it just, it's just as long as the scenarios are realistic, as long as they're not all. I mean, because AMPs are often a wee bit aspirational, but there's got to be a slice of or two of realism in there to know what the likely, or I guess what this will equate to. So,
But the elephant in the room is a $10 million increase in depreciation, and we've got to deal with that through this process. And what we think, what is reasonable, and what you guys think is reasonable to fund as well.
Because what this will do is allow you to understand the strategic context you're working in. And then as you start looking at those issues of budget and impacts, actually saying what the trade-offs are, but also gives you that conversation about actually going back.
So to respond to Jules, I think, and this is a bit boring, and I know I'm a bit biased, but that probably goes back to the second problem statement, is that better information will inform you better of what you need to do. And so I'd be kind of reluctant to drop that one from my view. It's got nothing to do with me, but in a way, it's sort of, that's the background work that means you can talk more coherently about what you've got and what the challenges are and what you need to do. And done well, that problem statement should sort itself out and go away. But if it doesn't, it possibly should get bigger in its weighting, because without good information, you can't make good decisions.
It impacts on the first problem statement because you don't know what decisions you need to make.
Exactly. So
Also, your funding, like if it's for bridges or road maintenance or footpaths, that is what it's for. We can't shuffle that which way we want, can we?
we this NLTP, we've been increasingly less flexible. The minister said to us that he didn't trust what was happening out there, and there was anecdotal reports of rehab money going into cycleways and footpaths. I think that was garbage, but you know, you can't say that. And so he's locked this down. So there's much more little boxes of pots of money that can't be transferred around. Well, they can. It's cute. We have to go to the board to get them moved around, and that would never happen. And so, but they pushed back quite strongly and said that it was a trust issue. So like for example, the walking and cycling was transferred into its own little bucket, and the bucket was reduced, and that was just deliberate. So I think, you know, we can agree or disagree with what's happened, but it is what's happened, and that was the reason put forward.
So Axel cycleways and give us more money for me.
There's not much in there now.
You already got next.
Yeah, no.
But
But anyway, so that's even like the local road operations in the pothole. That used to be one group. Back in the day, it used to be, you know, there used to be a different far rate for the renewals as opposed to the ops, and so there was a stopping and moving and stuff there. So this is what the world we're in at the moment. It's a little more bucketed out.
Cool. Good discussion, guys. We've got a half hour left. What I want to do is I'm going to turn our gears now to the benefits. So if you think about this is the positive side of things now. So what we want to do is get some statements here that really clarify the direction. If we were to resolve the problems that we just discussed, you know, what are the benefits ultimately you would want to see? And out of these will come performance measures, et cetera, that will get attached to these so you can actually monitor and manage it better. The first one is value for money improves for ratepayers through optimized programs. You got network performance, reliability, and resilience improves. The district becomes more attractive to live, work, and visit. community safety and satisfaction improve. It's worth pointing out, and it was in the context paper, that in the last ILM, there is a opportunity around tourism that has been embedded here, and the district becomes more attractive to live, work, and visit. So it hasn't disappeared, if you're wondering where it went, it's been incorporated within that. And then the benefit and safety, because safety is really, really important, is actually seen here as a benefit, not as necessarily as a problem in its own right. So you can kind of see how that's translated. Any general feeling on it? And we can go through one by one, but how does this sit with yourselves? You kind of tackle these in a lot of ways. You're standing in the supermarket. Someone asks you, well, what benefit is this? Would this help you articulate the story?
There was a few comments around the problem statements that related around think about fairness about what's being paid for around the forestry side of things. So is that something that could come through in this area? I don't know whether it's at the benefit or later on, but it's more around who pays for what and whether we've got that right. There was some comments about
that. Would go back to the first benefit statement. Value for money improves for ratepayers through optimized work programs. We identify those specific roads where we should be billing forestry owners for. The rest of the district is benefiting by us identifying that.
And the forestry owners will be up in arms and be in here though.
As a statement, I would agree with that. We want value for money, don't we? So,
Yeah, that one,
yeah,
that one resounds true.
yes.
Does anyone else, any other comments on that one? Jules, in bringing up that question around fairness, because that did come up a couple of times. If you think of potential responses, there might be a response of looking at, say, how the rates and fairness are set up. So that could be a potential response in the future as well.
So are you referring to potentially considerations of different rating percentiles per industry, as an example?
It could be if that's something that is of interest, yeah. I'll just capture it. There's no one saying yes or no to any of that. Just write it down.
That's similar with Southland went through, isn't it? That's a huge debate.
Southland has a differential rating system.
But it wasn't a short,
No, it was
very long, yeah.
Yeah, forestry whacked hard, didn't they?
Not really when you look at the quantum they pay. It's not massive. But it is more than other land use types.
What happens if your forestry is using a state highway and not a council road?
Yeah, but they've got to use council road to get to the state highway.
We don't.
Well, that's because you're part of C4.
Sorry.
Go, I'm just going to capture that. That's something that can be taken away. And I know there's going to be some great debates on that one. So value for money, the first benefit statement resounds well. Is that it? Yeah. Any other comments, yes or no?
Yeah, what else are you meaning by optimise the program?
Cool. Do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, it essentially goes back to probably the second and first problem statement. Weak data, we don't understand fully where we should be investing our responses. And that ties back into the value for money. If we understand better where we should be investing.
If you reseal a road 3 years before you need to, you've wasted that 3 years of life out of that seal.
But that comes back to your data collection.
Yep.
That's it. Which we do now, don't we?
We do
We're
that.
monitoring
Yeah.
We're monitoring our seal all the time, aren't we?
We are. We just need to start being better for all our seal groups, not just our seal network.
I think in fairness, over the last couple of years, there's definitely been improvements though.
Yeah.
I think that would be a fair comment.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. We just want to lose track of that.
It's all about water. It's always getting rid of water, that's the issue.
Cool. So then the next benefit statement was network performance, reliability, and resilience improve. How does rezoned.
Well, surely that will happen if we've got the first one right.
We'll definitely tie in together.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to improve something if you're not putting more bucks into it, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I know.
Like, is it improve maintaining status quo, save money as you watch inflation over the ride? You know?
So, like as an example,
Yeah.
like with what Gordon said with the culvert, if it's a 300 mil and we know we're getting more rainfall, we're getting more events, resilience, you would increase the size of that culvert. That's going to improve the network
Common
performance.
sense.
This one, some
But also, if you had like a rehabilitation schedule, and if you did that, and you know, if you did it early, that is costing you money to go early. And so it's a bit, not just in time, but it's in a way, you want to do it at the time it's done, and probably more crucially, you know, a reseal done too early costs you money, but a reseal done too late costs you a lot more money because it'll be dig outs and maybe a rehab itself. So it's being familiar enough with the network and landing those right, and you'll find that there'll be a lot of stuff that you'll go and look at it and say, I'll tell you what, we'll look at it next year. We're not doing it this year. And so a lot of that, just that field validation stuff, some stuff will blow up and bite you, but not much once you get familiar.
So that those decisions are made on need or on what's available to spend, or are we crystal ball gazing?
All of the above. But we would hope that with a bit of skill we could pick when the optimum time is to intervene.
Yes.
And then that maybe the more sophisticated you can get, sometimes the better decisions you can make, which will optimise and I think in general reduce spend, because risk averse is unaffordable.
Yeah.
So you always got to take the risk, but it's best to know what those risks are and how to judiciously accept them or not. And so the better capability you get in council officers, the better decisions you can make. That you've got to know to ask the right questions, and then know your network enough to know when you need to go. Knowing you're not going to get 100%, but you'll probably do pretty well.
So I was just going to say, so as an example, in the last 2 years, our new panel,
Yes.
the professional service providers are driving the network with our team, and they're looking, whereas historically it was all desktop.
Yeah.
So, well, not always, I shouldn't say, because I wasn't here then, but there was a high level of desktop assessment. So on paper, it might say, yep, that road's ready for renewal, but in reality, we could have held off for a couple of years.
And so some worst case examples I see is you might do a filter through AW or through RAM to say, show me every road section that's over 17 years old and we'll reseal it. Yeah. Whereas I'd expect you to go out and you might have a 10-year-old road that's tipping over. Yeah. But you might have half of the 17-year-olds that you say, well, we'll look next year or the next year or the next year.
Sounds like people are comfortable with that second benefit.
But just to be clear, the network improvement or network performance improvement might be some parts of the network getting worse and other more widely used parts of the network getting better.
Yeah. So this is a really good, because you brought this up as well about what we're trying to establish today is actually ultimately, if you could do everything, what are the pure benefits that you would want to see if you resolve those problems? The beauty here is we, not the beauty, but it's the transparency now in the conversations and going, okay, well, we really want to increase network performance, but to do that, we're going to have to make some hard decisions. So we're only going to be able to do that on, say, this part of the network. Maybe there's a decrease, but actually we're able to focus in certain other areas. So it allows you to better understand what the trade-offs, because you don't have huge amount of, you don't have ultimate, funding around it. But it lets you better test your scenarios, if you will. So if this is what you're driving towards, how close can you get to it? And what are the trade-offs to it? Does that make sense? So you can see the importance of how these are structured.
I wonder if it's worth adding network performance, reliability, and resilience improve to align to level of service, or to align to acceptable level of service. Because this is what you're saying, that will then cover if we decide having to make those tough decisions that there's certain assets that we have to revert or reduce.
But we're not talking about putting rippers into Fast Hill, are we?
No.
We have in the past, itself, too.
Well, it's
We
interesting.
haven't quite got there though.
I was in Gisborne last week and they are reverting roads to gravel.
I thought they were already washed away, weren't they? They just-
No, there's other ones as well.
Okay.
Not many though, not many left.
So, yeah,
Or
it's,
West Australia.
yeah,
Is that right?
you don't know how lucky you are. It's a bloody youth up there.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So that,
I haven't got my driver.
well, it's not car wash. So does that feel more appropriate?
Oh,
Kind of
it's
sets a boundary within that a bit?
Does it need approved? Do we just say, just approve to a line level, like, to a line level of service,
To align level service.
or to a agreed level of service?
Guarantee you that the people that live on that road think you're aligning the level of service are
West Australia had that discussion in 1988.
So the
Rippers in the seal.
third benefit then is the district becomes more attractive to live and work and visit
And do business.
and do business. Any other comments on that addition or?
Is that sort of what we mean by work though? Is to do business and to work in the area? Yeah.
Yeah, well, live, work and play and do business, that's what happened, that's a result of doing business in the district.
We want people to live here, but they've got to be able to do something.
Yeah.
So your intent of adding business is getting people to come in and set up
Set up
business?
business,
Or
yeah.
so not, so workers working?
Set up business, new businesses, brings new workers,
Look at the.
more ratepayers. So I guess if your rating asset is well maintained and looked after, and we've got like primary industries are a big thing here, and guys are setting up chipping mills or sawmills or beef feedlots or whatever. Making freezing works bigger, it's got to be a good thing, isn't it?
Well, would not being that the district becomes more attractive to live in there, that's fine. But also by having all that right rating, it actually, our district will become more productive.
Yeah.
More productive.
That's right.
There's still an end of our district though, where tourism is important.
New business.
Yeah, and some of the, well, especially one of the roads that tends to have a few accidents of people coming around the corners on the wrong side is not good. We had another accident down there not long ago. It's at the Worker Valley Road.
Well, look at the increased production in the Catlins, you know, with tourism. Barely get to see our councillor lately. They're busy.
So if we,
Yeah, the shop got gravel.
so there's a general sense this is a good benefit, some tweaking around maybe productivity, actually adding businesses, not
Yeah.
just employment.
Yes.
Yes.
So we can-
Well, you've added
Right.
business, you're going to add employment.
Growth. Yeah, it's growth.
Just a question, it might be a wee bit silly, but on some of these major tourist routes, like the one down the Catlins, is something like toll roading a consideration? Because bearing in mind, it's the ratepayer.
Be better off tourism.
Yeah. Yeah, they're good there.
Someone
It's a state highway.
for a really long point.
I'll take a note.
Well, users-pay society, that's what we're moving into.
I know, just thought.
Nice, so the-
And just a note, well, a free cup of coffee or tea and a biscuit go to the Catlins. Got to be. Apparently so, it's pretty popular.
If you take a bus load, it's even better.
We're all good business
It's
model
for
there.
free, man, that's.
Yeah, for free, it all, here's your profit.
So, when we doing our roads with like the tourism type roads here, if you GPS, so do we do that? GPS it like a tourist would and see which road they send? Because that's where you can get the hiccups. I mean, I've struck that at home. We've had a stock truck. You used to only ever get the local transport that used to come in. Now they come from wherever. And he came up a back road of our farm and sort of tipped over into the back gully there. So we had to get fruit trucks in to pull them up. But it was a road that he should never ever have gone on, but that was where the GPS sent him. So do we actually do that bit of exercise?
Not currently, no.
Because I tell you what, if you're away in another
Yeah. So
part of New Zealand,
I'll give you a wee tip on
you
that.
go, oh, and I've driven for things like that, thinking I'm on the right road, and then find out, where the hell are we? We're in the back of nowhere. Yeah.
So why don't I capture that, because
Yeah.
the team can get back to you on that.
On that, no,
Yeah.
they had the same problem up off the Owaka Valley. So it's a paper road that shows up on Google.
Yeah.
It's actually just a farm private access road, but it's classed as a public road. And it's the road that will take you on Google as the shortest route to the end destination.
Yeah.
So these camper vans were getting up into these farm paddocks, and of course in reverse getting stuck.
Yeah.
In water tables, and then farmer getting woken up in the middle of the night to go and pull these vehicles all out. And she came to me a few times, and pretty much you can actually go on to Google and you can go and close that road. Go on your Google Maps, and put in your reasons to close the road, and then they have to assess it. So I actually said that the road is closed, and eventually the problem went away.
So just to add to
Register it,
that,
yeah.
we were having huge problems with tourists going from Queenstown to Milford trying to catch boats that know. And so we managed to quite quickly get Google to change the travel time from Tiana to Milford to 2 hours, as opposed to 90 minutes, which was showing. And so, because, the road, some people have never driven roads like that, and especially in bloody 7 metre long canyon or whatever. But so we managed to quite quickly turn that around, and they changed it quite quickly, Google. So it was actually very handy from our point of view.
The other one's Molesworth, and people go from Emden.
Nice, I'm gonna pause that one. Great conversation. Last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Coming in hot. We got the last one. We're doing well. So the last benefit statement, community safety and satisfaction. How does that resound? Is that?
Yes. Once again, they're all intertwined, but
Yeah.
surely that's the end
It's
result.
higher
isn't
weighting as
it?
anything else.
Aye.
To me, it's as higher weighting as anything else.
Yeah, yeah. That's right.
Community safety.
That's the whole end game, isn't it? That's what you want.
You can have
Do that,
safety
get
or
that.
satisfaction either way.
So my comments on this, and this is not even my wheelhouse, but satisfaction, that's about setting expectations and communications, I think. Like I always laugh when you have these questions about, like, you ask someone, are you happy with your unsealed road? Well, they're just about always not, because they want it to be bloody sealed,
We don't ask that question.
I know. I laugh when I see those questions. Hey, no, but what cracks me up is you get these people moving out of the country and they don't like the dust, they don't like this.
And I think we want to be a little careful when we've got in satisfaction improve now that we're agreeing to put to agreed level of service. Because if the councillors agree a set level of service and it's not improving certain assets, you're setting yourselves up for that.
Well, yes, you explain that you're improving.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Yes.
What was that?
Yes and no, you explain that you've done this to this level. Unfortunately, you people live on this, but we've maintained it to your previous level. So,
Is it more about clarity of expectations with the community?
Yeah.
Maybe improving communication?
Yeah.
So it's not satisfaction. It's more
Setting.
setting.
As Dane says, safety's got to be one of the premier outcomes, doesn't it?
I think consistency possibly needs to be squeezed in there somewhere.
Consistency in regards to what? Performance? Any other comments? comments on the benefits. We got some really good direction on making some tweaks in that. Okay, so that overall, taking on board the second benefit statement around agreed levels of service. So we'll look at how we shape that a bit better. Benefit 3, looking at adding in that business. So it's not just about having employment available, it's actually trying to get industry and people coming in. Okay. And then benefit 4 is not about satisfaction improving, it's about consistency, it's about improving communications and setting clear expectations for the community with a high focus on safety.
Positive outcomes.
Nice. Last thing is just considering the weightings. How does that, we've got a couple comments already. How do you feel that kind of split is looking for? The value being the highest.
What's your thoughts on dropping the community safety to 15 and chucking another 5 onto the district? It becomes more attractive to live, work and visit.
What's the thoughts here?
Nah, I think your safety is more important than you.
Anyone else got some thoughts? We need bums on seats.
I'd say the whole lot equals 100%. It's all important, isn't it? And it's all twined together. So it's all, I don't know, for me, it's probably all got to be focused on equally, but it's how you rank it, what comes first.
Yeah.
And
I reckon more bums on seats comes first. More attractive to live.
Safety.
But that might mean.
People are safe now. I haven't heard any fatalities.
don't say that.
But that might
That's
mean,
Not far away.
Go ahead.
yeah, but prioritising that too far might mean you had less value for money top too, so we're still trying to, yeah,
You lose.
still a lot of capital constraints.
Yeah, but we're taking it off the top, we're taking it off the bottom.
Kept the top two and look at basically flipping 3 and 4. How does that feel?
Eric, what are the percentages used for?
Does it matter?
The percentage
Does it really matter?
Does it really matter? I would say yes, in this sense, because it's really
Myself, I'd go for 25% of each.
You would flip.
So what does that change in terms of how much effort we give each of these things? Like, is it going to change what we emphasise in terms of when we're going to Gordon in our end? Like, I'm just trying to make sure the council understand what a different percentage would mean in terms of the final AMP that it flows through to.
So theoretically, the use of this is helping you gauge where you would put your resources. So it is helping you then understand when you're looking at scenarios and options and trade-offs, you know, actually how you guys are setting these from a governance perspective of being more important than others. Will a 5% weighting really tank it? Probably not. So I wouldn't get overly fixated on it. It's more about trying to give some direction here about how you would, you know, really trying to get focus for staff to go away and go, okay, actually, we really need to look at the value for money is really prominent.
Would number 3 being high mean we're going to do more streetscape upgrades? I'm just trying to clarify.
Likewise,
What's your interpretation of that? Because
interpretation.
this is what the staff have to go away and put into the AMP.
Yeah.
Likewise, though, if we get the top one up to 50, isn't the bottom one going to rise with it?
Well, 100% total. So this is the
You wouldn't expect safety improvements if the network's.
No, it won't necessarily improve because that top one there, we talked about optimised programs and we asked that question there, who pays for what and fairness. There's been quite a bit of discussion around forestry companies, etc., which comes back into that problem thing. So I think that, that there's been quite a common theme on right back to when we talked about the problems as to who's paying for what. And that is something that could be a priority, at least.
Could be. So one of the responses you might say that becomes a priority.
But on the percentage, it's something that's been a common theme and is discussed through the problems.
When you look at that top one, the second one, network performance, that aligns more with the one before, which are problems, heavy freight demands and that. Like, for me, that second one would probably be higher than the top one. I'd swap those ones around. Number 2 for 35 and number 1 for 30.
Well, we want to get value for money in everything we do as councillors, don't we? For our ratepayer. So is that our driving force?
Okay, so I'm gonna pause us because I've just been given permission to carry on after.
It's just you were coming up on our time for Tamata Arawai. What time's that, Steve? Is it 3 o'clock?
No, it's 3
Okay, so, but it's only half an hour, isn't it? Or 3/4 of an hour, so there is time. If we don't, I just don't want us to shut the discussion down and not have time for half an hour afterwards. If we haven't got to where we need to get.
You don't need half an hour, do you?
I don't, not at all. It's-
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that if we're gonna, we don't shut it down if we don't need to. If we can finish it in the next 10 minutes, that's great.
Well, a couple things. One, I agree. I'm available, so I'm not going to run away if you guys want to have a longer conversation. Doesn't necessarily mean we'll have a better conversation. So that's always the key point I like to say. If you've got something you want to add to this, I think the percentages become really important in the sense they help guide you on how you're making decisions and where the weighting sits. It doesn't mean you won't have another opportunity once you see the fuller outcome of this kind of resetting where those sit. Because I don't feel you're setting it in stone now. And you walk away and you have a realization of the importance of it. It is important. There is a sense that the benefit statements are good. Is that what I'm getting from you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. A little question around the percentages, which we can retest it again. So we've taken on board some feedback there. I think that's really important. And then as the ILM gets finished, you can see how that actually works. So on that note, I'll wrap up. Give me 2 more minutes.
Yeah.
Is that good? Yep.
Yeah.
Just to paint the context here. You see on the ILM, there are key performance indicators there. So this is not just an exercise of just talking and writing things down. This is an exercise of actually setting the strategic direction and then clearly understanding how do you measure that, right? So you guys as governors can sit down and go, okay, well, actually you said you're gonna deliver this. Actually, how do we measure the performance and test it? Is this actually working or not? So what the team are looking at, these are just initial draft KPIs, but I just want to show you how they start fitting in. So these potentially will change. These are just initial, but what you can see here is at the high level benefits, there'll be KPIs, key performance indicators that'll be attached to them. And that's what you guys can start to look at and going, okay, well, actually we wanted this. Is it contributing to that or not? There's still more work to be done in that space, and Titus has been working on this in the background, which they'll come back to you with, but just so you know how it fits in. The last thing I do before I wrap up is we've got, sorry, it must be on your system, that's why. The last thing you'll see here, so the full map, you can see responses and solutions.
Should be on page 2 if you guys have.
Yeah. And so what will occur, and actually you guys raised this many times, which is great. You can see everything does connect. In the discussion like this, you can see everything literally connects. The important thing that we're trying to grasp here is there are critical connections and then there are loose connections. So yeah, you can draw lines to everything and connecting everything, but what we don't want to do is actually do that because we want to understand actually critically what is one problem to the benefit and how we're responding to it. So you can get some clarity in going, okay, the program of works that you're putting on the table actually delivers the major benefit to this. And if we don't do that, here's the consequence of that. So you can start to trace that back better. What the team will do, we'll take on board your feedback today. So really appreciate your attention and input. Produce another investment logic methods updated, but then we're also working on the response and solutions, which then will be tested with yourselves as well. So I'll wrap up there unless there's any further questions.
Has anybody ever asked your what the team at the coalface think.
Awesome, because I should have said that, because the ILM was actually involved, the team at the coalface, so the operations team was involved in this.
Good.
And had input into it. So what you're seeing here is that breadth of the team actually taking a look at it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, and I think Donna, as she really pointed out, that ground truthing, because that was really, really important. How the team wanted to move forward.
Yeah, we had the entire asset management, transport operations team working on this. We sat in the same room, table was full. We even had our project managers around the table. Eric was just the facilitator. All these ideas was from the team.
As well, look, it's easy for us to come in here and make a lot of decisions or suggestions, but then throw it to you guys and make it work. The fact that some of the direction has come from you guys right from the get-go.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, we just wanted to support that you agree with us, and these are our thoughts.
Thank you, guys.
And then Gordon says, no, you're not right. We want to make sure Gordon doesn't say, no, you're off on the wrong track.
Yeah, but Gordon
As long as it was 90% subsidy.
We're not the chairman.